Well, American cities are collapsing and Democrats are freaking out. And guess who will pay for this? You, the American taxpayer. So here's one solution that Republican candidate Vivek Ramaswamy has is, hey, let's deport entire families and then just get rid of the whole concept of anchor babies. What do you think of this? Watch.
The family unit will be deported. As a family unit, we'll never separate families, but we will de-bureaucratize the process for which law-abiding citizens and their families have a path to legal immigration into the country if they meet the criteria.
The child who's born in the United States, who's a birthright citizen of the United States, would also be deported in that,
yes,
in that case?
That's correct. And I think that there are legally contested questions, and I'm honest about this. They're contested. But there are legally contested questions under the 14th Amendment of whether the child of an illegal immigrant is indeed a child who enjoys birthright citizenship or not. We will follow the Constitution and the law, letter of the law to a T. But the point I was making with respect to the families, we will never use separation of families as a deterrent. I think that's a mistake. I'm a pro-family person. But we have to stand and abide by the rule of law where the families return to the country of origin. And then under the right circumstances, certain families will be given a path back through legal immigration.
All right. Now, this brings up the issue of anchor babies, which is interesting because he is one. We should be clear about that. He is the parents of Indian immigrants. His father had come on a work visa and then went back to meet his mom in an arranged marriage. He tells this story in his book. And then they migrated and had him here. But his father had a work visa. They were legal immigrants. So this is where he's making the distinction. You don't have to like the distinction. I get that there's a class element here, right? Let's not pretend there's not. Immigration is good for a nation when it means importing productive people in a controlled manner. That's not what we have right now. Let's all agree. Even the rich women of ABC's The View declared, this is really hard on us. It's hard in cities where we're used to being able to move freely around in our Lululemons and get manicures. There's too many people here crowding our rich schools. Watch.
But frankly, I think we need to find, and we've dealt with this before. I lived in Miami. I was an immigrant in Miami in the 80s. You'll remember when we had the Mariel boat lift. Yes. 125,000 Cubans came in a matter of 6 months. It puts tremendous stress on a city, on a community, on the social services. They need to be resettled elsewhere.
They need to be out. We're this massive country.
Well, and it's only going to get worse with global warming and climate change because people can't live in certain parts of this world.
Okay, so what they're saying is shoo out of here, right? Shoo along. Yes, we want immigrants. Good. I was one, right?
It always sounds good in principle, right? On their mountaintop, their sanctimonious mountaintop, right? Now it's affecting their lives in New York City. And now it's a problem. Now we need to comment about this. Now we need to get them out of here.
Now, to this point, New York City Mayor Eric Adams is saying that the city is facing a financial tsunami, and he has taken truth serum. And he is telling the nation, we can't handle this, and everything's on the table, and budget cuts are going to get serious, folks. Watch his interview over the weekend.
The $12 billion price tag has been thrown around over the next couple of years, and you're talking about every single department being cut. That is a broad statement. Can you zero in on maybe something a little more direct, that a service that may be cut, and how soon people might see it?
Well, we're going to give a financial overview. I sat down, I was briefed by Jacques Jihad, my budget director, and we're going to reveal to the entire city, each agency, what we're asking. Every agency is going to have to do a 5% PEG program to eliminate the gap, finding efficiencies. We did 2 rounds of that already, and we're going to show New Yorkers exactly what we're faced with, because transparency is crucial here. I have to be honest to New Yorkers. What we are up against.
Are you talking about emergency personnel as well?
Everything is on the table now. Think about this for a moment.
Yeah.
We're talking $12 billion.
Yeah.
$12 billion of running our city. Sanitation, police, education, libraries, everything that we have to run the city. There's a minimum amount of money that comes in that we have to address this crisis. That's a national crisis, and we've been ignored.
What's a timeline then for cuts?
This is going to be in the next round of budget. We have to do a budget modification in November where we have to account for the money that is going to be needed. And we have to do it 2 years out. We have to announce our budgets every 2 years out.
Okay,
So we've already heard-
so what he's saying is we can't afford to live the life that we lead. It's not like New York City is so safe as it is, and it will become less so because they can't pay enough people to take care of the population that we have. Now, this is what we actually want to hear from politicians, right? We were wrong. We are collapsing. We have a problem and we don't see the solution, and we all need to be aware of this. This is showing a great divide in the Democratic Party. Just on Monday, watch this frosty body language between Mayor Adams and Vice President Kamala Harris at a 9/11 memorial ceremony. I'm going to talk over it, but watch just how they do not want to look at each other. This is, again, cold shoulder of the nth degree. They're not interacting. No eye contact, nothing. The New York Post is calling this a split between City Hall and the White House over the migrant crisis. Maybe, or maybe they have a personal vendetta. Maybe they just don't like each other. How are we supposed to know? And he later on said, yes, I absolutely want to talk to the White House because so much is happening on the migrant crisis and they're pretending it's not. It's not just crushing social services like schools and hospitals and transport and housing. It is also causing tension and violence. Look at this last week. 6 people were arrested from a Brooklyn migrant shelter for assaulting officers in an altercation with scooters. Again, watch this. I'm going to talk over it. You don't need to hear it clearly. Now, the president has been utterly unwilling to address the influx of problems and will continue to do so as long as he's president. And I don't think there's much chance of the administration giving up this anchor babies, because anchor babies are American taxpayers. We've talked about this before. This is an entire generation of accidental Americans. In fact, one which was Boris Johnson. We've talked about how Boris Johnson is the cautionary tale of accidental Americans because he sold a condo, didn't realize that he owed his capital gains to the American government, and then was owed a big fat tax bill. What he did as a result of that was renounce his citizenship, not until he already had lost that tax challenge. So American tax system is draconian. I think most people don't understand it. But now you might say, okay, but illegal immigrants don't pay taxes. Well, when they take a paycheck, they do. When they actually, now the U.S. government is even suing Tesla because it won't hire illegal migrants because they will take a paycheck and the government will take their taxes out of that paycheck. Whether or not the migrant later files taxes, it doesn't matter, right? Because they dip their hands into paychecks. You know this. Anybody who's ever collected a paycheck knows this. Now, this week, the IRS says that they're going after the wealthiest individuals. But as Carol Roth points out in her book, that math doesn't add up. They just say that to make you feel better, but really it's the working class that they're after. She says that if you actually took the top 11 wealthiest individuals in the U.S., these people here, and collected all of their assets, that would fund the government for 2.5 months. That's not going to get us anywhere. So we're going after the rich to fund ourselves. The math just doesn't work out on that. They need to breed working class. That's how because the government doesn't have an input problem. They have a spending problem. How are they going to do that? They need worker bees. So there's no way the U.S. government is giving up their anchor babies, people they can tax abroad and overseas, people they can tax in paychecks right now. Did you know that the average person works from January to May for the U.S. government? They only really keep what they make from June on. Of course, they're going to continue to do this. So nice idea, Vivek Ramaswamy. I don't think that's going to be really the thing. But what do you think? What is the thing? I mean, I am a bit like Eric Adams at this point. Like, I don't know. It's a humongous problem. What can be done? The Biden administration says, What problem?
What problem?
We're fine.
He's fine. Yeah. He has no concerns at all about the border and what's happening in the American cities. Thank you so much for watching this segment here at Redacted. We are live every day at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, trying to share the stories that the mainstream media will not cover. You should also come over and join our community of Redacted Rebels over at redacted.inc. That's our private locals community where we can share exclusive content that we simply cannot share here on YouTube. Come over and join the rebellion together right now by going to redacted.inc. We'll see you next time.